Hey, Glenn here, the People's Carpenter. I'm standing here in my office. I'm going to sit at my desk to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm often sitting at my desk and sometimes I'm on video calls. In fact, I'll put the camera where my webcam is. Something like that. I'm often on video calls and sometimes I'm giving presentations on various subjects of my interest. And the webcam is there, so I have to think about how I want the background to look. So it's nice to have that bookcase there. That's my wife's easel. She's a bit of an artist, She is an artist. So that's kind of cool to have there. I will move my amplifier and one of my electric guitars into a place where it's more visible because that would be cool. I'd like another bookcase sitting there. In fact, I already have the bookcase that I'm going to put there. And it is this one. It's made of oak, got some kind of Art Deco features going on. If I take this one though, I have to replace it because currently it is housing a bunch of children's books, many of which we read to my grandson. So I can't just steal it. So I looked on Marketplace, I looked on Trade Me, which is a buying and selling website that we have here in New Zealand. I went out to a used furniture store, visited a couple of local charity stores. There's nothing quite right that's out there. And sometimes that just means you have to make it yourself. Here in my wood storage shed, I have these long pieces of untreated pine that were used for a workbench in the old cottage that I'm restoring. I think they would be perfect for this. When using recycled timber, depending on its condition, a large part of any project is consumed by the process of creating the boards that you need. In this case, that's removing the nails, cutting the boards to the rough dimensions you want, although you would have to do some of that anyway, and jointing and planing the bow out of the boards, and then planing them down to the right size. Here are the two sides of the bookcase. I'm picking the least attractive face of each side and marking it with an I because that will be the inside face. My manufacturing process is getting better, but it's still not perfect. I don't want each side of the bookcase to have a different level or angle on the top edge, resulting in a wonky top. So with the feet on each side level with each other, and the sides clamped together, I'll trim the top edges so that they are a perfect match. While the sides are clamped together, I may as well do the same thing with the bottom of the feet. This is slightly overkill, but I figured while I was trimming up the edges, I may as well do the front and back, as well as the top and the feet. So this is all pretty good now. Yeah. Okay. It's very warm. It's up in the 20s Celsius, which is not very warm in some parts of the world, like the middle of Australia, but it's pretty warm here to be doing physical stuff. So I'm going to have a break. won't do it now, but I must build another fence for this. The one that comes with this small Shepark router table is rubbish. I'll cut the shelf supports to the same length using a simple stop block on the miter saw. It's just a piece of wood clamped onto the table. Unlike the support at the bottom and the top, I can't clamp the middle of this support, or that one. So what I'll do instead is put a screw in the middle and just glue and clamp the ends. Now you might be thinking, or not, but you might be, how, Glenn, are you going to allow for wood expansion? And the answer is I'm kind of not. It's not a large piece, and also it's made of softwoods. We've got pine and poplar. This type of issue that would be caused by expansion is much more of an issue for hardwoods. Plus there isn't, I mean, I know in some parts of the world that's more of an issue, but here in Masterton, New Zealand, we're not really going to get dramatic changes in moisture content, so I don't think there's going to be a problem. But we'll find out if I'm wrong. Tell you what, even with all that workshop space, there's nothing really nicer than working outdoors on a day like today. While the shelf pieces glue up, which is about the most boring part of this entire project, I'm going to make some decorative pieces. One at the very top, I have some curvy lines there. One identical one at the bottom of the shelves, but flipped upside down, so it'll be like a mirror image. And then a different decorative piece down each side, all made of poplar, sort of framing the bookcase area. When it comes to the curvy bits, I don't trust the steadiness of my own hand or my ability to consistently create one after the other and have them identical. So I'm going to make a template. So I think it'll be something like that. Okay, yep, I think that's it. Will I be able to pick out the true design among the false designs? And so it'll be the same going the other way, and there will be a circle cut out there, which I'll do with a force bit. I'll do that now. So I've gone ahead and made the first one, just to make sure that I had a pretty good idea of what I was doing when I showed you how to make these. I've sanded the template. I don't show you the sanding always because sanding's not that interesting. Anyway, let's take this template now and make the second one, which I will attach down below. Because there was nothing in the front holding these edges just the right distance apart, to make it easier to nail the piece on, I'm using a sash clamp. Of course, once it is nailed on, the sash clamp will no longer be required because this thing will be holding it in place. We'll just use a tiny spot of glue. I am now in the habit, when it's a relatively fine piece with relatively small pieces of wood, of snipping the points off my nails to reduce the chances of splitting a small board, and pre-drilling. There we are. But we're not finished yet. These are the nails that I'm using, very good for furniture projects. The type of nail is a jolt head with a plain shank made from bright steel. Jolt heads, unlike a flathead nail, don't have the head that sits on the surface of the wood. The jolt head is a small round head that sinks into the wood, and the top of it sits flush with the wood when you hammer it in all the way until you punch it, and then yeah, it'll go slightly lower. The brand is Otter, but of course there are plenty of brands of nails out there. Might pay to mention though that for nailing the shelves on, I'm using smaller nails. Panel pins, once they get to a certain size, they get called panel pins. They're just jolt head nails, but they're only 25 millimeters long. So I trimmed this bottom shelf. It looked exactly the same as when I trimmed the top, so I didn't show it to you. And now I'm nailing it in. These will not be removable shelves. They will be fixed in place. The whole thing is very light, so the fact that they're not removable should not bother anyone. Maybe that's too deep. Oh no, too late now. Okay, so that's the original profile. It's too deep, so you can't really appreciate the curved bottom of the cut. I did it again on the other side, and that's much better. I'm happier with that. Made a bit of a blunder earlier. I decided that I was satisfied with that groove, but then I put the round over. I didn't show you me putting the round over on this side, which means that I'm committed to using this groove, and because I can't be bothered preparing a new piece, I'm just going with it. Don't worry about squeeze out, it'll all be sanded off. I need one more to go. Good. And there we are. The build is complete. Now I know that there are good and bad ways, popular and unpopular ways of using AI, artificial intelligence, but I'll tell you something that I found interesting that I did just yesterday. I took a photo of this completed as you see it here, and I gave it to ChatGPT because I was trying to evoke a sort of 19th sort of maybe 19th, turn of the 20th century look here, but basically a Victorian piece of furniture. A Victorian farmhouse piece of furniture made with simple pine, not fancy expensive timber, with some of the features that you would expect of that kind of furniture from that era. And I said to ChatGPT, here is a bookcase. I didn't say I made it. I said, how old is it? When was it made? And the answer was so on point. It said, that is a modern build, but it is made exactly in the style of late 19th century Victorian or early 20th century Edwardian furniture. And I said, how do you know it's a modern build? And it said, I can tell that it's a modern build because the boards are so clean and precisely machined as though with modern tools, which is exactly correct. However, my historical judgment about why I say it looks like a late Victorian piece is because of the scroll work on the top here, the design feature down the side. Maybe that's probably more an Edwardian feature, maybe, not sure. And the use of straight-grained pine wood make it look like a Victorian farmhouse piece of furniture. And I thought, that is well, number one, it's very good to know that these tools can perform that kind of analysis. So if you're not sure what you're looking at, it can help you. But it's also encouraging to know that to a non-human eye who has no real opinion about anything, it recognized this bookcase as being exactly what I wanted to make. So that was cool. That was cool. Something else that's very cool, and here's where some other people would segue into the sponsor of this video. I have no sponsor, but you are welcome to sponsor me. But something else that's very cool is this package that arrived for me today. This is paint. I'm not going to paint this in this video because the paint job deserves a video all of its own. I've never used milk paint before, which is what this is, to give a good historical look, and I've never used the technique that I'm going to be using before. So I'll do a video all about painting reproduction historical furniture using one particular method, and you'll see that very soon. But until then, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Yeah, the next video is not far away. I am Glenn Peoples, the People's Carpenter.